Well, good afternoon to anybody who may be here and listening, and a good day to you. I finally finished my loudspeaker stands, but I have to. I'm going to put a surface coat. I'm going to put some oil, and I'm also going to paint part of them. So I haven't finished, but I've finished the construction of them, and I've just been sanding and trying to smooth everything down. It was a huge job actually. I hadn't realized, but because they're not square, I think this is what caused me a problem. They're just curves all over the place, and so their construction is a little bit approximate, but they look more or less the same, and I think they'll look okay when they're finished, as it were, when they have the. I'm going to put some oil and some paint on, and hopefully they'll look smart. So I'm thinking of I think I might call Solomonism. I don't know whether that exists at all, but if it exists, I'm at risk of it. And when I say Solomonism, what I mean is relying on the wisdom of Solomon more than on the saving grace of Jesus Christ. And I think this is something that's quite common, because I believe that the Freemasons have taken Solomon's wisdom to the ultimate level. And of course, the problem with the Freemasons is that they are assembled together with anybody who believes in some form of a higher power. And you have to believe in a God to become a Freemason. And that's wickedness, because that's, what fellowship hath light with darkness. There is the one true God, and then there is the God of this world. Those are the two basic alternatives, and the Freemasons are happy with both of them together, and this can't really be allowed. And I'm afraid that Freemasonry is, although there are many Freemasons, I'm sure, who are very well-meaning gentlemen, and they do good works and what have you, but it's this aspect. This is the spiritual aspect that's a problem, and also the fact that the secrecy. Although they all say, well, it's not a secret. Some people will say, well, I'm a Freemason and it's not a secret. But they're not obliged to declare their membership if they take any form of a public or governmental office. And this is a problem, of course, because we know that there are high-ranking members of the civil service who are Freemasons. So they're taking counsel together in secret. That's the problem with them. We can't know that. We can only speculate. And they've resisted calls to make it mandatory to disclose their membership. They've resisted them very effectively, and through a legal challenge that actually drew on some of the legal arguments used to keep judges safe from the mafia. They're keeping themselves safe from, well, I don't think they're risking the mafia, but maybe just the ordinary man and woman in the street. I don't know. But the understanding I learned from my American friend, who's very knowledgeable about the Bible and everything, the understanding of Freemasonry was that it was very much linked with Hiram, who was the builder of the temple in the days of Solomon. And they claim, these are the Christian identity people, or some of them do, I don't know whether all of them do, but the claim is that the Queen of Sheba had a child not with Solomon, but with Hiram. Now, this is extra biblical stuff. I don't think there's any biblical support for that idea, but there's no biblical support either for the fact that Solomon might have had a child with the Queen of Sheba. And that idea is the kind of the genesis of the Ethiopian bloodline, which culminated, I think, in Haile Selassie and, the Rastafarian movement and everything, where Haile Selassie is seen as being co-equal with Jesus Christ. And that's not biblical at all, really, is it? But whether Solomon did jump the Queen of Sheba's bones or not is just pure speculation. But learning about Solomon's life, it does seem that he was a bit of a kind of a Charlie Sheen, or Charlie Harper, as he used to be called in that show, 2.5 Men, which I do very much enjoy, although it's a wicked show, of course, but I often watch clips from that. I found it very well done and quite funny. And it seems that, perhaps you could say that Solomon had something of the Charlie Harper or Charlie Sheen character. Not that there were any women on that program, 2.5 Men, which is something that that's a claim. I think I would stand by that, except perhaps for the housekeeper. But I think all of Charlie's conquests were changelings, should we say, to avoid being too graphic. But I think they do exhibit many of the features that we've come to associate with transformation in the movies, all of them really. So that's just a kind of by the by. But the problem is, that Solomon's wisdom, and I've spoken about this before. The last time I spoke, I said the important thing is to seek wisdom, and of course it is. But, before that, there is the grace of God. There is, there are the two great commandments in the New Testament that Jesus produced, to love God with all your mind and heart and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Neither of those things is linked up intimately with the wisdom of Solomon, with the idea of wisdom. Wisdom without the Spirit of God is a dangerous thing, I suppose. We're talking about the knowledge that was promised by the serpent in the garden, and that without the Spirit of God, that will lead astray always. So I think I just wanted to temper, my enthusiastic embrace of the Proverbs, and particularly the first 11 chapters, which are mainly about the pursuit of wisdom, to remember that Solomon was a fallen man, and he fell into idolatry in his, in his middle age perhaps, and he became wicked in the sight of God, I think. But I think that Ecclesiastes is his mea culpa, and he's in the Bible, a fallen and a broken man, but there he is, and his wisdom remains, but it's not in itself sufficient by any means. So it seems to me also that because of Solomon's conceits, and then you look at Freemasonry and how it's developed, and it makes me wonder about the King of England, and I don't mean the current king, I mean the husband of Queen Elizabeth, because I'm not a big fan of queens. So Prince Philip, if it's true that a man is the head of the household, then Prince Philip would have been above Queen Elizabeth, a bit like the way that because Ahab was not sufficiently faithful and strong in himself, he became dominated by Jezebel, and that led to all sorts of wickedness in the Bible. So the two queens that I think in the Bible are, Jezebel and Athaliah. Both were wicked. I don't see any justification for our people being ruled by a queen. I think we must be ruled by a king. That doesn't mean to say that Prince Philip would have been the king if that rule had been applied. I'm sure there would have been another pretender to the throne, but I haven't done the research on that to see who it would have been. But of course, Prince Philip became involved, it would seem, in Freemasonry. The link between the British royal family and Freemasonry, I think there's quite a lot of evidence to show that it's, it is a problem. Let's put it that way. And of course, the fact that Prince Philip, although, at his funeral, the reading was taken from a book, interestingly, called The Wisdom of Solomon, which is part of the Apocrypha. So it would seem that he was, presumably he approved that reading before passing away. I don't suppose it was chosen without having consulted him. I don't know, but so it is anyway. That's the reading that we have at his funeral, and it's very interesting to go back and read those chapters and to see the extent to which that kind of thinking leads to pantheism and nature worship. And you can see that in The Wisdom of Solomon. Very interesting book. So those are the things I wanted to add today, not to go on too long. And the snow is melting today, and it's another day to stay in because it's slippery underfoot. But the sun is out, and surely tomorrow will be a day for a good walk. God bless everybody today.